Good evening. I thought tonight we could talk about the Big Bang. Not in a loud way, just quietly, the way you might talk about it if you were sitting in your kitchen after everyone else had gone to bed and you were having some warm milk and you happened to look out the window at the stars. I've been thinking about it lately. The Big Bang. How everything started. And I thought it might be a nice thing to talk about while you fall asleep, because it's actually a very calming topic, if you think about it the right way. See, a lot of people imagine the Big Bang as this violent explosion. Loud, destructive, like fireworks on the 4th of July, but bigger. But that's not really what it was. It was more like, well, I guess it was like everything deciding to exist all at once. Very quietly. In a way that took 13.8 billion years to get to this moment. Right here. With you listening to this, and me talking to you about it. That's a long time. 13.8 billion years. I was at the grocery store yesterday, the Fairway Market on Cherry Street, and I was looking at the expiration dates on the yogurt. They give you about 2 weeks with yogurt, sometimes 3 if you're lucky. And I thought about how we're very concerned with those 2 weeks. We check the date, we smell it, we wonder if it's still good, and that's reasonable. You don't want to eat bad yogurt. But then I thought about how the universe has been around for 13.8 billion years, and the yogurt has been around for maybe 11 days, and I've been around for 40-some years, and we're all in the same grocery store together, existing at the same time. The universe and the yogurt and me. And I bought the yogurt with the farthest date, like I always do, even though I'll probably eat it tomorrow. So the Big Bang, it happened about 13.8 billion years ago. That's the current estimate. Scientists are pretty confident about that number, give or take 100 million years or so. Which seems like a lot, but in cosmic terms that's like, well, that's like me telling you I'll meet you at the restaurant at 6 o'clock and showing up at 6:02. Still pretty accurate. Before the Big Bang there was nothing, or, well, there might have been something, but we don't know what it was. And we can't know because the Big Bang is like, it's like the earliest page in a book. Before that page there's just the cover, and before the cover there's the bookstore, and before the bookstore there's the street. And you can keep going back, but eventually you run out of things to say. That's what the Big Bang is. It's where our ability to say things runs out. But about 13.8 billion years ago, everything that would ever exist was compressed into a point smaller than an atom, which is already very small. Atoms are so small that if you took all the atoms in a grain of salt and lined them up, they'd stretch about 1 millimeter. That's what my science textbook said when I was teaching 4th grade, and the entire universe was smaller than that. All the stars, all the planets, all the grocery stores and yogurt and people thinking about yogurt, all of it, compressed into something unimaginably tiny. And then, very suddenly, it wasn't. I wonder sometimes what that moment was like. Not the science of it. I mean, I wonder about the science too. But I wonder about the feeling of it. If there was a feeling, if you could have been there. Which you couldn't, because there was no there yet, and no you. But if you could have been there, what would it have felt like? Would it have felt like waking up? Like that moment when you're coming out of a dream, and for just a second you don't know where you are, and everything is new? Or would it have felt like remembering something? Like, oh right, this is what existing is like. I don't know, but I like thinking about it. When I was younger, my father and I used to go ice fishing. This was up in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, where my grandmother lived. We'd wake up very early, 4 or 4:30 in the morning, and we'd drive out to the lake while it was still dark. My father wasn't a talkative man. He was kind, but quiet. He worked at the paper mill, and I think by the end of the day he'd used up all his words. So we'd sit there in the dark in the truck, driving through the snow, and neither of us would say anything. Just the sound of the heater blowing and the windshield wipers going back and forth. And I remember feeling like we were the only two people in the world. Like everyone else had stopped existing, and it was just us, moving through the dark. And then we'd get to the lake, and we'd set up our ice shanty, which is like a little tent you put over the hole in the ice, and we'd sit there, waiting for the fish to bite. And it would be so quiet, that particular kind of quiet you only get when there's snow on the ground, and it's very cold, and the sun hasn't come up yet. A kind of quiet that feels like it's holding its breath, and sitting there in that shanty, in that quiet, I remember feeling like I was at the beginning of something, or the end of something. It was hard to tell which. That's what I imagined the Big Bang was like, that moment of not knowing if something is starting or ending. Or maybe both at once. Of course, the Big Bang wasn't actually silent. Sound needs air to travel through, and there wasn't any air yet. But if there had been, scientists say it would have made a sound. Not a bang exactly, more like a deep hum, a very low note, the kind of note you feel in your chest more than you hear with your ears. I read somewhere that if you could hear that sound today, it would sound like the note B flat, but 57 octaves below the middle B flat on a piano, which is so low that no human could hear it. It would just be a feeling, a vibration, like when you stand too close to the speakers at a concert, and you can feel the music moving through you, even if you don't know what song is playing. The universe started with a feeling. I like that. After the Big Bang happened, after that first moment of everything existing all at once, the universe started to expand. It's still expanding. Right now. While you're lying there, listening to this. While I'm sitting here, talking to you. Everything is getting farther apart. Not quickly. Not in a way you'd notice. But if you could speed up time and watch the universe like a time-lapse video, you'd see everything drifting away from everything else. Galaxies moving apart. Stars getting more distant. Space itself stretching like taffy. It's been doing this for 13.8 billion years. And here's the thing. It's not slowing down. It's speeding up. Scientists discovered this in 1998. They were studying distant supernovas, which are exploding stars, and they noticed that the universe isn't just expanding, it's expanding faster and faster, which doesn't make sense if you think about it. If you throw a ball in the air, it slows down because gravity pulls on it. The universe should be slowing down too, but it's not. They don't know why. They call the thing that's making it speed up dark energy, but that's just a name. They don't know what it actually is. It's like naming your dog Dog. It doesn't tell you anything about what the dog is like. It's just something to call it. 95% of the universe is made of things we don't understand. Dark matter and dark energy. We can see the effects of them, the way they pull on things, the way they push things apart, but we can't see the things themselves. Which means that when we look at the universe, we're only seeing 5% of what's actually there. I think about that sometimes when I'm teaching. How much of the world the kids are seeing, and how much they're missing. Not because they're not paying attention, just because there's so much that's invisible. Like feelings, or time, or the way a room changes when someone walks into it, important things. But invisible, I made some chamomile tea before I started talking to you. It's a little ritual I have. I put the kettle on, and while I wait for it to boil, I stand at the window and look outside. There's not much to see. A street lamp, some trees. Sometimes a cat walking across the yard. I don't know whose cat it is, but I see it most nights around this time. Tonight, the cat wasn't there, but the trees were, and the street lamp, and beyond that, the sky, and beyond that, all the stars. Most of those stars are already gone. Not gone, but the light we see from them is old. It takes a long time for light to travel through space. So when you look at a star, you're not seeing it as it is now. You're seeing it as it was when the light left it, years ago, decades ago, centuries ago, millennia ago. Some of those stars have already burned out, collapsed, turned into something else. But their light is still traveling toward us. And we won't know they're gone until that light stops arriving, which might not happen for another 1,000 years, or 10,000, or more. So in a way, those stars are still alive. At least, they're alive to us. I think that's beautiful. Sad, but beautiful. The tea is good. I put a little honey in it. Local honey from the farmer's market. The woman who sells it is named Doreen. She keeps bees in her backyard. She told me once that bees communicate through dancing. When a bee finds flowers, it comes back to the hive and does a little dance that tells the other bees where to go. The angle of the dance tells them the direction. The length of the dance tells them the distance. Bees invented language by dancing. That's something that happened on this planet. After billions of years of the universe expanding and stars forming and dying and forming again. Bees dancing to tell each other where the flowers are. Sometimes I think about all the things that had to happen for bees to exist. The Big Bang had to happen. Stars had to form and create heavy elements by fusing hydrogen and helium in their cores. Those stars had to explode and scatter those elements into space. Those elements had to come together to form a new star, our sun, and planets around it. One of those planets had to be the right distance from the sun, not too hot, not too cold. Water had to form. Continents had to rise and fall. Life had to begin. Single-celled organisms had to figure out how to become multi-celled organisms. Plants had to evolve. Insects had to evolve. Flowers had to evolve. And finally, bees had to evolve to pollinate those flowers. And then they had to figure out how to dance about it. All of that. Just so Doreen could sell me honey at the farmer's market. It's a miracle, really. When you think about it, let me tell you about the first few minutes. After the Big Bang happened, the universe was very hot, unimaginably hot, trillions of degrees, hot enough that atoms couldn't form, just particles, quarks and gluons and electrons bouncing around in a kind of cosmic soup. But it was cooling down, fast. Every second, the universe was doubling in size and getting cooler. After about 1 second, it was cool enough for protons and neutrons to form. Still too hot for atoms, but we were getting there. After about 3 minutes, it was cool enough for those protons and neutrons to stick together and make the first atomic nuclei, mostly hydrogen, some helium, a tiny bit of lithium. That's it. Just 3 elements, hydrogen, helium, and a little bit of lithium. Everything else, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, iron, gold, all the elements you learned about in school, all of that came later, billions of years later, made inside stars, cooked in the cores of stars, and scattered into space when those stars died. Which means that you and I are made of stardust. That's not just a poetic thing people say. It's literally true. Every atom in your body except for the hydrogen, which is most of you because you're mostly water, and water is hydrogen and oxygen. Every other atom was made inside a star that exploded billions of years ago. Your calcium, your iron, your carbon, all of it. Star stuff. You are the universe looking at itself. Carl Sagan said that. Or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. But it's true. The universe spent 13.8 billion years arranging itself into a form that could think about itself. And here you are, thinking about the Big Bang, which is the universe thinking about the Big Bang. It's very circular, but I like circles. After those first 3 minutes, nothing much happened for a while. Well, a lot happened. The universe kept expanding, kept cooling, but it was dark. There were no stars yet. Just this hot fog of hydrogen and helium spreading out in all directions. And it stayed like that for a long time. About 380,000 years. I know that doesn't sound like a long time, compared to 13.8 billion years. But imagine waiting 380,000 years for something to happen. That's longer than humans have existed. That's longer than Neanderthals existed. That's longer than almost anything you can think of, except geology. The universe just sat there in the dark, cooling down, waiting. And then finally it got cool enough for atoms to form. Electrons settled into orbit around nuclei, hydrogen atoms, helium atoms, and suddenly light could travel. Before that, light kept getting absorbed by all the free electrons floating around. But now it could move freely through space. That light is still traveling. We can still see it. It's called the cosmic microwave background radiation. It's like a baby picture of the universe, a photograph taken 380,000 years after the Big Bang. It's everywhere. If you point a radio telescope in any direction, you can see it. This faint glow, the afterglow of creation. There's static on old televisions, the kind with antennas and dials, not the new ones. And about 1% of that static is the cosmic microwave background. 1% of that fuzzy noise is the echo of the Big Bang. Which means that when I was a kid, sitting too close to the TV on Saturday mornings, watching cartoons, I was also watching the beginning of the universe. Just a little bit. I didn't know that then, but I like knowing it now. I need to get up for a second. My back gets stiff if I sit too long. Hold on. Okay. I'm back. I got some water. The tap water here is very good. It comes from an aquifer beneath the town. It's been there for thousands of years, they say. Maybe millions. I don't know how they date water. But it tastes clean. Where were we? Oh, right. The cosmic microwave background. The baby picture of the universe. After that light could travel, things started to get interesting. The universe was still just hydrogen and helium, spreading out in the dark. But it wasn't perfectly smooth. There were tiny variations, little areas where the gas was slightly denser than other areas. And those denser areas had slightly more gravity. And gravity pulled in more gas. And that made them denser still. And they pulled in even more gas. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill. It starts small, but it picks up more snow as it rolls, and it gets bigger and bigger. Except instead of snow, it was hydrogen, and instead of a hill, it was the fabric of space itself. But the idea is the same. Eventually, those clumps of gas got so dense and so hot that hydrogen atoms started fusing together, slamming into each other with so much force that they stuck together and became helium. And when they did that, they released energy, a lot of energy. That's what a star is. It's a ball of hydrogen crushing itself together so hard that it turns into helium and gives off light. The first stars formed about 100 million years after the Big Bang. That's when the universe stopped being dark. One by one, stars began to turn on. Like someone going through a house at night, flipping on all the switches. The universe lit up, and it's been lit up ever since. I went to a planetarium once. This was years ago, on a school trip with my 4th graders. We drove all the way to Milwaukee, which took about 3 hours. The kids were very excited. Most of them had never been to a planetarium before. Some of them had never been to Milwaukee. We sat in this big dome theater, and they dimmed the lights, and the ceiling became the night sky. More stars than you could count. The Milky Way stretched across the middle like a river of light, and the presenter, a nice woman with a very soothing voice, told us about constellations, Orion, the Big Dipper, Cassiopeia, but what I remember most is when she turned off all the stars. Just for a moment, she said, "This is what the sky would look like if there were no stars." And the dome went completely black, darker than I'd ever seen, darker than a moonless night, darker than closing your eyes, and we all sat there in that darkness, 23 4th graders and me, not saying anything, just sitting. One of the kids started to cry. Very quietly. I think it scared them, that darkness, the complete absence of light. I reached over and put my hand on their shoulder, and they stopped crying, but I could feel them shaking a little. And then the stars came back on, one by one, faster and faster, until the sky was full again. And I heard the kid next to me let out a breath, like they'd been holding it the whole time the lights were off. I think about that sometimes. How frightening it is, the dark, how much we need the light. Even just a little bit of it. The universe gave us stars. After 380 million years of darkness, it gave us light. And I'm grateful for that. Let me tell you about the first stars. They were different from the stars we have now. Bigger. Much bigger. Some of them were 100 times more massive than our sun, and they burned very hot and very bright and very fast. Our sun has been burning for about 4.5 billion years, and it'll keep burning for another 5 billion years or so. But those first stars only lasted a few million years, which is nothing in cosmic terms. A cosmic blink, and when they died, they didn't fade away quietly. They exploded. Supernovas. The biggest explosions in the universe. So bright that for a few weeks, a single star can outshine an entire galaxy. And when they exploded, they scattered all the new elements they'd made into space. Carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, silicon, iron. All the heavy elements. All the ingredients you need to make planets. To make life. Those first stars died so that we could exist. I think about that on hard days. When things aren't going well, when I'm tired or sad, or feeling like nothing I do matters. I think about how stars died to make me, how the universe went to all this trouble, 13.8 billion years of trouble, just so I could be here, worrying about whether I said the wrong thing at the staff meeting, or whether I should have bought the yogurt with a closer expiration date after all. It doesn't make the worries go away, but it makes them feel smaller, more manageable. Like if the universe could do all that, then I can probably handle whatever's bothering me, usually. After the first stars died and scattered their elements into space, new stars formed from that enriched gas. And some of those new stars had planets around them. Our sun formed about 4.5 billion years ago. It's a 3rd generation star, they think. Maybe 4th. Made from the remnants of earlier stars, and around it, the leftover gas and dust formed a disk. And in that disk, little particles started sticking together. Dust grains, then pebbles, then rocks, then boulders, then planetesimals, then planets. Earth formed about 4.5 billion years ago. Give or take a few million years. At first, it was just a ball of molten rock, too hot for anything to live on, too hot for water to exist as liquid, just lava and rock and heat. But slowly, very slowly, it cooled down, and water vapor in the atmosphere condensed and fell as rain, and it rained, and rained, and rained, for thousands of years, maybe millions, until the oceans formed, and somewhere in those oceans something happened. We don't know exactly what, but about 3.5 billion years ago, chemistry became biology. Non-living matter became living matter. The first life. Just a single cell. Probably something like bacteria. Simple, fragile, but alive. And that cell divided. Became 2 cells. And those 2 cells divided. Became 4. And those 4 became 8. And on. And over the next 3.5 billion years, those cells became fish, and plants, and dinosaurs, and trees, and birds, and mammals, and eventually humans, and eventually you. It took 13.8 billion years, but here you are. I'm going to tell you something personal. Sometimes I have trouble sleeping. Not often, but sometimes, usually when I'm worried about something, or when I'm thinking too much. On those nights, I do what I'm doing now. I think about the Big Bang. I think about how everything started, how long it took to get from there to here, and I trace the line from the Big Bang to the first stars, to the second stars, to our sun, to Earth, to the first life, to fish, to amphibians, to reptiles, to mammals, to primates, to humans, to my grandparents, to my parents, to me. 13.8 billion years of history, all leading to this moment. Me, lying in bed, unable to sleep, thinking about the universe, and somehow that helps. Knowing that I'm part of something that big, that old, that vast. It makes my worries seem less important. Not unimportant, just less urgent. Like, if the universe could wait 380 million years for the first stars to form, then I can wait until tomorrow to worry about whatever I'm worrying about. Usually, by the time I get to the part about the first fish crawling onto land, I'm asleep. There's a woman in my church choir named Helen. She's 87 years old. She has trouble with the high notes now, but she still comes to every practice. Never misses one. Last week, after practice, we were putting away the chairs, and she told me something. She said, "I've been singing in this choir for 63 years. And you know what? Every time we sing the doxology, I still get goosebumps. The doxology is a hymn, praise God, from whom all blessings flow. We sing it almost every Sunday. It's short, simple. Most people know it by heart, but Helen still gets goosebumps. 63 years, probably more than 3,000 times she's sung that hymn, and it still moves her. I thought about that on my drive home, how something can be old and familiar and still be beautiful, still be meaningful. How repetition doesn't have to mean boredom, how you can do something over and over and over, and it can still feel new each time, if you let it. The universe is like that. It's been expanding for 13.8 billion years, doing the same thing over and over, getting bigger, cooling down, stars forming and dying and forming again, galaxies spinning, planets orbiting. And it's still beautiful, still meaningful. At least, it is to me. Let me tell you about galaxies. After the first stars formed, they started to gather together, pulled by gravity into groups, clusters. And those clusters became galaxies. A galaxy is a collection of stars, anywhere from a few billion to several trillion, all orbiting around a common center, held together by gravity, spinning slowly through space. Our galaxy is called the Milky Way. It has about 200 billion stars in it. Maybe 400 billion. Nobody's counted them all. It's hard to count that high. And the Milky Way is just one galaxy. There are about 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. Maybe more. 2 trillion galaxies, each one with billions or trillions of stars. Each star possibly with planets around it. Each planet possibly with moons. All of it spinning and orbiting and moving through space in ways so complex that we're still trying to understand them. It's too big to really comprehend. I can say the numbers, 2 trillion galaxies, but I don't think I can really understand what that means. I don't think anyone can. But I'll tell you what helps me. There's a hiking trail behind the elementary school where I teach. It's not much of a trail, just a path through the woods, maybe half a mile long. In the spring there are wildflowers. In the fall, the leaves turn yellow and orange and red. In the winter, it's covered in snow, and nobody uses it except for deer. I walk that trail sometimes after school, when I need to clear my head, and there's a spot about halfway through where there's a gap in the trees, and you can see the sky. And sometimes, if I time it right, I can see the moon, just sitting there in the afternoon sky. Very pale, almost transparent, and I stop and look at it. The moon. Our moon. The same moon that's been orbiting Earth for 4.5 billion years. The same moon that the dinosaurs saw. The same moon that my grandmother saw when she was a little girl growing up in Michigan. And I think that's just one moon, around one planet, in one solar system, in one galaxy, out of 2 trillion galaxies. And somehow that makes it more real. Not less. More, because I can see the moon. I can understand the moon. It's right there. And if the moon is real, then the rest of it must be real too. All those galaxies, all those stars, all that space, it's real, and I'm part of it. And so are you. Are you still awake? It's okay if you're not. That's the point of this. To help you fall asleep. But if you are still awake, that's okay too. We're in no hurry. Time is funny. Einstein figured that out. He showed that time isn't absolute. It doesn't flow at the same rate for everyone. If you're moving very fast, time slows down for you. If you're in a strong gravitational field, time slows down for you. Astronauts on the International Space Station age slightly slower than people on Earth. Not by much, just a few milliseconds per year. But it's measurable. Time is flexible. Stretchy, relative, which means that in a way we all experience time differently. Not just metaphorically, literally. The atoms in your body are experiencing time at a slightly different rate than the atoms in your head, because your body is slightly farther from the center of the Earth, and gravity is slightly weaker there. The difference is tiny, unimaginably tiny, but it's there. You are living in multiple timelines at once, just very, very slightly. I don't know what to do with that information, but I find it comforting somehow. Like we're all a little bit outside of time, a little bit flexible, a little bit undefined. When I was teaching 4th grade, I used to do this exercise with the kids. I'd tell them to close their eyes and be quiet for 1 minute. Just 1 minute. No talking, no moving. Just sitting there with their eyes closed, and I'd set a timer on my phone, and we'd sit there, me and 23 4th graders. In complete silence, and you know what? They could never do it after about 30 seconds. Someone would giggle, or shift in their seat, or whisper to the person next to them, and then everyone would start laughing, and the minute would be over, but I didn't mind. Because I think that's what being a kid is like. Time moves differently for you. A minute feels like an hour feels like a day. Summer vacation feels like it'll last forever. And then you grow up, and it reverses. A minute feels like a second. A week feels like a day. Years blur together. I'm in my 40s now, and sometimes I'll blink and a whole month has gone by. I don't know where it went. It was just here, and now it's gone. But then, every once in a while, I'll have a moment where time stretches out again, where a minute feels like a minute, or longer. Usually it's when I'm doing something simple, washing dishes, walking, sitting on my porch in the evening, watching the light fade. Those are good moments. I try to have more of them. Let me tell you about entropy. Entropy is a measure of disorder, of randomness. The second law of thermodynamics says that entropy always increases, that things always move from order to disorder, that everything eventually falls apart. If you build a sandcastle, the waves will wash it away. If you clean your house, it will get dirty again. If you organize your files, they will become disorganized. Everything tends toward chaos. That's entropy. And the universe has entropy too. Stars burn out. Galaxies drift apart. Eventually, trillions of years from now, all the stars will die. All the black holes will evaporate. All the matter will decay. And the universe will be dark and cold and empty. Just a thin soup of particles, spread so far apart that they might as well not exist. That's called the heat death of the universe. The final state. Maximum entropy. It sounds sad, and I guess it is sad. The idea that everything ends, that nothing lasts forever. But here's the thing, we're not there yet. Right now, the universe is still young, still full of stars and planets and life, still interesting, still beautiful, and you and I are here to see it. That's not nothing. I have a friend named Mike. We've known each other since high school. He works at the hardware store on Main Street. Good guy, very reliable. A few years ago, Mike's father died. Heart attack. Very sudden. Mike took it hard. We were at the diner one morning. This was a few weeks after the funeral. And Mike was telling me about going through his father's things, sorting through boxes in the garage, old tools, photographs, papers. And he found a box of letters. Letters his father had written to his mother when they were dating. This was back in the 60s, before they got married. His father was in the army, stationed in Germany, and he'd write to her every week. Long letters. Pages and pages. Mike said he sat there in the garage reading those letters, his father's handwriting, his father's voice, talking about the weather in Germany, about the food, about how much he missed her, about his plans for when he got back. And Mike said it was like he was still alive. For those few hours, sitting there reading those letters, it was like I could hear him talking to me. He started crying then, right there in the diner, just quiet tears running down his face, and I didn't say anything. I just sat there with him. After a while, he wiped his eyes and said, "I think I'm going to keep those letters, even though they hurt to read, because they're all I have left of him." And I said, "That's good, Mike. That's a good thing to do." We finished our coffee, and I paid the bill, and we went outside. And the sun was shining, and the birds were singing, and life went on. But I think about that sometimes, about how we leave traces of ourselves, how nothing really disappears completely, how we're all connected to each other and to the past, and to the future in ways we can't always see. Mike's father is gone, but his words are still here. His love is still here, in those letters, in Mike's memory, in the way Mike is with his own kids. Nothing is ever really lost. It just changes form. That's what the universe does too. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It just changes form. Stars die. but their elements become new stars, new planets, new life. The universe recycles everything, including us. I'm going to tell you something else. Sometimes, on clear nights, I go outside and look up at the stars. I don't have a telescope or anything, just my eyes. And I pick a star, any star, and I try to imagine what's happening there. Maybe it has planets. Maybe one of those planets has life. Maybe someone on that planet is looking up at their sky right now, looking at our sun, wondering the same thing. Probably not. The odds are very low. But maybe, and even if there's no one there, even if it's just a star with nothing around it, it's still amazing. That ball of hydrogen burning in the dark, giving off light that's traveling through space right now. And some of it is hitting my eyes, and that's how I can see it. That light left that star years ago, maybe hundreds of years ago, and it's been traveling through empty space all that time just to arrive here tonight and enter my eye and become part of my experience. I think that's a kind of conversation, not with words, but a conversation nonetheless. The star is saying, I'm here, I exist, and I'm saying, I see you, I acknowledge you, and that exchange, that tiny exchange of light and attention, is something that matters. At least, it matters to me. You know what's strange? The universe didn't have to be this way. The laws of physics, the fundamental rules that govern how everything works, they could have been different. The strength of gravity could have been stronger or weaker. The charge of an electron could have been different. The speed of light could have been faster or slower. And if any of those things had been even slightly different, I'm talking about a fraction of a percent, the universe wouldn't have formed the way it did. Stars wouldn't have been able to form. Or they would have burned out too quickly. Or atoms wouldn't have been stable. Or 100 other things that would have prevented life from ever existing. Scientists call this the fine-tuning problem. The universe seems to be very precisely calibrated to allow for the existence of complexity, of structure, of life. Some people say this means the universe was designed, created by something or someone with intention. And maybe that's true. I don't know, I wasn't there. Other people say we just got lucky, that maybe there are infinite universes, all with different laws of physics, and we happen to live in one of the rare ones where life is possible. And of course, we live in one of those universes, because we couldn't exist in any of the other ones. It's like a lottery where only the winners know they played. I don't know which explanation is right. Maybe both, maybe neither, maybe it's something we haven't thought of yet. But what I do know is this: we're here, against all odds, against the vast improbability of existence. We're here, and that seems worth appreciating. There's a tree outside my window, a maple tree. It was here when I moved into this house, and it'll probably be here long after I'm gone. In the fall, its leaves turn this deep red color, almost burgundy, and they fall, one by one, and cover the yard. Every year, same thing. The leaves turn, the leaves fall. I rake them up. Or sometimes I don't rake them up, and they just decompose over the winter and become part of the soil. It's a cycle, like everything. The tree takes carbon dioxide from the air, and water from the soil and light from the sun, and it builds itself. Cells dividing, growing, branches reaching up and out, and in the fall it lets go of its leaves, and they return to the earth, and the carbon in them gets recycled, used again, by the tree, by other plants, by fungi and bacteria in the soil. Nothing is wasted. Everything gets used again. The atoms in that tree, the carbon, the oxygen, the nitrogen, Those atoms have been around since the first stars died. They've been part of millions of different things: rocks, water, other trees, animals, air, maybe even other people. And someday, the atoms in me will be part of other things too. I won't be me anymore. But the pieces of me will still exist, recycled, reused, part of new forms, new structures, new lives. I find that comforting. The idea that nothing ever really ends. It just changes. When I was a kid, my grandmother had this saying. She'd say, "Joseph, we're all just visitors here. We don't own anything. We're just borrowing it for a while." She'd say this when I'd get too attached to things, toys, books, whatever. At the time, I thought it was depressing. Like, why have anything if you can't keep it? But now I understand what she meant. She wasn't saying things don't matter. She was saying they matter differently than we think. That the joy is in the having, not the keeping. In the experience, not the possession. We borrow atoms from the universe for a little while. We arrange them into the pattern called us. And then, eventually, we give them back, return them to the universe, and they become something else. We're all just visitors here. But what a visit it is. I should tell you about dark matter. Remember I mentioned it earlier. Dark matter is one of those things that scientists know exists but can't see. They know it exists because galaxies rotate in ways that don't make sense, unless there's a lot of invisible mass holding them together. If you look at a galaxy and calculate how fast it should be spinning based on the visible matter, the stars and gas you can see, it should be spinning slower than it actually is. The outer edges should be moving much slower than the inner parts, like how the outer planets in our solar system orbit much slower than the inner planets. But galaxies don't work that way. The outer edges spin just as fast as the inner parts, which doesn't make sense unless there's something else there, something with mass, something creating gravity. But something we can't see, that's dark matter. It makes up about 27% of the universe, more than 5 times as much as all the regular matter. All the atoms, all the stars, all the planets, all of us, we're the minority. By a lot, and we have no idea what it is. It doesn't interact with light. It doesn't interact with regular matter, except through gravity. It just sits there, invisible, holding galaxies together. It's like, imagine you're in a room, and you can feel someone's presence. You can't see them, you can't hear them, but you know they're there because of the way the air moves, or the way your own behavior changes in response to them. That's dark matter. The universe is full of presences we can't see, and then there's dark energy. That's even stranger than dark matter. Dark energy is what's making the universe expand faster and faster. It's like a pressure, a push, but we don't know what causes it. It makes up about 68% of the universe, more than everything else combined. So if you add it up, regular matter, everything we can see and touch and measure, is only about 5% of the universe. Dark matter is 27%. Dark energy is 68%. We live in a universe where 95% of it is completely mysterious to us. I think about that when I'm feeling like I should have everything figured out. Like I should understand my life, or have a plan, or know what I'm doing. If scientists, people who spend their entire lives studying the universe with billion-dollar telescopes and particle accelerators and supercomputers, if they can only understand 5% of reality, then maybe it's okay that I don't have all the answers. Maybe it's okay to live with mystery, to be comfortable with not knowing. Maybe that's even the point. I want to tell you about a moment I had once. This was a few years ago. I was driving home from Milwaukee. It was late, maybe 10 or 11 at night. Winter. Snow on the ground. Dark. And I was on this country road. 2 lanes, no lights, nothing around for miles. And my headlights were the only light anywhere. Just this small cone of illumination moving through the dark. And I had this feeling. This sudden, overwhelming feeling of how small I was. How isolated. Just me in this car. This little metal box. Moving through the dark on a frozen planet that's spinning at 1,000 miles per hour and orbiting a star at 67,000 miles per hour and moving with that star around the center of the galaxy at 500,000 miles per hour. And I'm in all this motion, all this cosmic motion, but from my perspective, I'm just sitting still, driving on a quiet road, listening to the radio, and I thought, this is what it's always like. We're always in motion, always part of something vast and complex and ongoing. But most of the time, we don't feel it. We just feel ourselves, our small concerns, our immediate surroundings. And that's okay. That's actually good. We'd go crazy if we felt the full weight of cosmic reality all the time. But every once in a while, it's good to feel it. To remember how big everything is, how old, how connected. I pulled over on the side of the road, turned off the car, turned off the headlights, got out, and I stood there in the dark and the cold and looked up, and the stars were incredible. Thousands of them, millions of them. The Milky Way stretched across the sky like someone had spilled light across it. I stood there for maybe 10 minutes, just looking, not thinking, just being there, being part of it. And then I got cold, so I got back in the car and drove home. But I still remember that moment, that feeling, of being connected to everything, of being exactly where I was supposed to be, even though I didn't know why. Are you asleep yet? That's okay. This is nice, just talking. Even if you're not listening anymore. I used to do this with my grandmother. When I was little, I'd stay at her house sometimes, and I'd have trouble falling asleep in the unfamiliar bed, and she'd sit in a chair next to me and just talk about anything, about her day, about the weather, about what she was planning to make for breakfast. Her voice would get softer and slower as she talked, and eventually I'd fall asleep, and she'd keep talking for a little while longer just to make sure I was really out, and then she'd quietly leave the room. I only know she did that because I woke up once later and remembered hearing her voice continue, even after I'd closed my eyes. She died when I was in college. Heart failure. She was 79. At the funeral, the pastor talked about how she was in heaven now, at peace with God. And maybe that's true. I hope it's true, but I also think she's in other places, in my memory, in the way I talk to people, in the way I sit with my students when they're upset. In moments like this, talking to you in the dark, hoping to help you sleep, we leave pieces of ourselves in other people. That's another way we continue, another way we're recycled. Let me tell you about the future. The universe will keep expanding. Galaxies will keep drifting apart. The stars will keep burning, and new stars will keep forming. But eventually, trillions of years from now, all the available hydrogen will be used up. No more raw material for new stars. The last stars will die. The universe will go dark. But before that happens, a lot of other things will happen. In about 4 billion years, our galaxy, the Milky Way, will collide with the Andromeda galaxy, our nearest neighbor. Right now, Andromeda is moving toward us at about 70 miles per second, and in 4 billion years, we'll meet. It sounds violent. A collision. but it won't be. Space is mostly empty. The stars are so far apart that even when two galaxies merge, the individual stars almost never hit each other. They just pass by each other, rearrange themselves, form a new, bigger galaxy. Our sun will still be here when that happens. It'll be older, hotter. Earth might not be habitable anymore, but the sun will still be burning. And then, about 1 billion years after that, the sun will start to die. It'll swell up, become a red giant. Its outer layers will expand and swallow Mercury, then Venus, possibly Earth too. We're not sure. It's going to be close, and then it'll shed those outer layers. They'll drift off into space, forming a beautiful cloud of gas called a planetary nebula. And the core of the sun, what's left of it, will collapse into a white dwarf. A small, dense object about the size of Earth, but with half the mass of the sun. It'll glow with residual heat for billions of years, slowly cooling down. Eventually, it'll become a black dwarf. A cold, dark cinder floating in space, but that won't happen for trillions of years. Much longer than the current age of the universe. By then, humanity will be long gone. Either extinct or evolved into something else, or spread across the galaxy in forms we can't imagine. But the atoms that made us up will still be here, scattered, part of other things, other worlds, other lives, maybe. We'll be gone. But we'll also still be here. I think the hardest thing about being alive is knowing it doesn't last. Everything ends. People, relationships, jobs, pets, favorite restaurants, TV shows, seasons, all of it. Everything ends, and you can know that intellectually. You can say, yes, everything ends. That's just how it is. But knowing it and accepting it are different things. I still miss my grandmother. It's been more than 20 years, and I still think about her. Wonder what she'd say about things. Wonder if she'd be proud of me. I still miss teaching 4th grade. I moved to the high school a few years ago, teaching choir now, and it's good, but it's different. I miss those kids. The way they'd get excited about things. The way they'd ask impossible questions. Sir, what's the biggest number? Why is the sky blue? Sir, do you think aliens have pizza? I don't know where most of them are now. Grown up. Moved away. Living their lives. But I hope they're doing okay. You know what helps, though? Remembering that everything that begins also ends. That beginnings and endings are two sides of the same thing. The Big Bang was a beginning. The heat, death of the universe will be an ending. But they're connected. You can't have one without the other. Every birth implies a death. Every meeting implies a parting. Every hello implies a goodbye. That's not sad. Or, it's not only sad, it's also beautiful, because it means everything is precious. Everything matters. Everything is happening right now, in this moment, and then it's gone. And it becomes memory. And eventually even the memory fades, but while it's happening it's real and vivid and alive. That's what we have. Moments. Experiences. The feeling of being alive, right now. And right now, you're here, listening to this, or maybe asleep by now, dreaming. And I'm here, talking to you, and the universe is here, expanding around us. And the stars are here, burning in the dark, and all of it came from that first moment. The Big Bang. The beginning of everything. There's a poem I like. I don't remember who wrote it. Maybe I made it up. I'm not sure anymore. It goes, we are made of star stuff, borrowed for a brief time, shaped into eyes, and hands and hearts, just long enough to look around, to touch each other, to feel the weight of being alive. And then we're asked to give it back, to return to the cosmic library, these elements we've borrowed, so someone else can use them. Someone else can be, I think about that, being part of a cosmic library, a lending system, where matter is checked out and returned and checked out again, infinitely recycled, infinitely reused. Your carbon atoms might have been part of a dinosaur once, or a fern, or a drop of ocean water, and someday they'll be part of something else, a tree, a bird, a cloud. You're temporary, but you're also eternal. The pieces of you have always existed and will always exist, just in different forms. I'm getting tired. Are you tired? I hope you're tired. I hope you're drifting off. I hope your breathing has gotten slower and deeper. I hope your muscles have relaxed. I hope you've stopped thinking about tomorrow, or yesterday, or anything except maybe the sound of my voice, and even that is fading into the background, becoming just a gentle rhythm, like waves on a shore, or wind through trees. Let me tell you one more thing. When I look up at the stars, I sometimes try to imagine what happens between the stars, in the empty space, the dark space, the nothing, except it's not nothing. It's full of things we can't see. Dark matter, virtual particles popping in and out of existence, cosmic rays, neutrinos, whispers of the Big Bang. Space is alive, not like we're alive, but alive in its own way, active, dynamic, changing, and we're part of it. The boundary between where you end and space begins isn't as clear as it seems. Neutrinos pass through your body all the time. Cosmic rays hit you. The atoms in your skin are constantly exchanging particles with the air around you. You're not separate from the universe. You're continuous with it. You're made of it. You're an expression of it. The universe is looking at itself through your eyes, thinking about itself with your thoughts, feeling itself with your feelings. When you feel joy, the universe is feeling joy. When you feel sad, the universe is feeling sadness. When you love someone, the universe is loving itself. You are the universe experiencing itself subjectively, and that's beautiful. That's the most beautiful thing I can think of. The Big Bang happened 13.8 billion years ago, and it's still happening, right now, in you, in me, in every atom, every star, every moment. We're all echoes of that first moment, ripples spreading out through space and time, still expanding, still cooling, still becoming, still being born. I think I'm going to stop talking now. I think you're asleep. I hope you're asleep. I hope you're dreaming about something nice, something peaceful. Maybe you're dreaming about the Big Bang, about floating in that first moment of creation, surrounded by light and heat and the pure potential of everything that would ever be. Or maybe you're dreaming about something simple, a garden, a warm day, someone you love. Either way, it's good. It's all good. Sleep well. The universe is taking care of you. It always has been, and underneath it all, if you listen carefully, the faintest echo of that first moment. The Big Bang, still humming, still singing, still saying, here, now, this exists, and we do,